Good morning. Welcome to Immigrants Matter at CUNY. This program has been organized to address the concerns of CUNY's immigrant students raised by the recent election. My name is Jay Hershenson. I'm Senior Vice Chancellor for University Relations and Secretary of the Board of Trustees. CUNY is hosting a live Facebook event where senior CUNY attorneys, student affairs directors, and staff will answer legal, financial aid, and immigration status questions. Let me first begin with a statement from the Chancellor of the City University of New York, James B. Milliken, which was made this past Friday, circulated this weekend, and is being sent to all members of the City University community. Dear members of the community, following the presidential election, many students at CUNY and at campuses across the country remain understandably anxious and concerned about the possible policies of the next administration. This is particularly true for the policies which may not be articulated for some time that could affect members of our community that CUNY has served since its founding. Our immigrant community helps define who we are, where we have been, and our future at this university. It brings passion, ambition, creativity, and perhaps most important, the dreams that are in fact the American dream. At CUNY, we have an unwavering commitment to providing opportunity to low-income and underrepresented students and immigrants, a point of honor and strength that makes our mission so vital. As I wrote recently in a letter to all members of the CUNY community, this mission will not change, and the city and the country will be much better for it. CUNY is the undisputed leader among universities in this country in the support and services we provide to immigrants on our campuses and throughout the city. That will remain the case. We have led the nation in the number of undocumented students with special scholarships to support their studies. We operate the extremely effective CUNY Citizenship Now program, which has offices in all 5 boroughs, providing an array of one-on-one legal services, referrals to needed social services, reviews of legal status, and assistance with applications. We also provide counseling for students on immigration issues on our campuses. This support is clearly among the strongest statements we could make of the value we place on educating and assisting the people who have proven generation after generation that they will take their places among the greatest New Yorkers and sustain New York as one of the greatest cities in the world. In response to the questions and concerns that have been raised by the recent election, we are taking a number of steps to support and in every way we can to our immigrant community. As we initiate these measures, CUNY will continue to review applicable laws and do all we can within the bounds of the law to ensure the security of our students. Our colleges have been very active in providing opportunities for counseling of students and staff and have held forums for discussion and support. As part of Immigrants Matter at CUNY, we will be holding this Facebook Live session today from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. to answer your questions and address concerns. We have lawyers, student affairs advisors, other specialists on hand to provide advice and referrals where necessary. We hope all affected students will take advantage of CUNY and college resources and appreciate the great importance we place on providing the support and services that will help you build your futures and strengthen our university and our city. And that statement is from James B. Milliken, the Chancellor of the City University of New York. The Chancellor also put out a statement this weekend commending Governor Andrew Cuomo for announcing important new steps to combat hate crimes, expand the state's human rights laws, and provide legal services to immigrants. The governor's statement is an important message about the values we share as New Yorkers and the state's commitment to all of its people. We are especially encouraged that the state will be working even more closely with colleges and universities to safeguard immigrant rights and by the availability of new resources to address reports of bias or discrimination. You can get access to the Chancellor's statement and to the statement by Governor Cuomo right on the CUNY homepage, www.cuny.edu. I now have the privilege of acknowledging the various experts that are here with us this morning. We have with us Alan Wernick, who is the Director of Citizenship Now. He's also a professor at Baruch College and a columnist for the New York Daily News. Andre Lemons, directing attorney of Citizenship Now in the Heights, which provides immigration advice for undocumented students, including those with DACA. Frederick Schaefer, who is the General Counsel and Senior Vice Chancellor for Legal Affairs of the City University of New York, and he will be addressing rules and regulations regarding access to student information. Kevin Tucker, University Director of Student Affairs, and he will focus on support services for students. Rachel Stevenson, who is the University Director of Dream US and Program for Dreamers for CUNY. She's also the Director of the CUNY Service Corps. And Daniel Simonet, Associate General Counsel of the Office of Legal Affairs. Let's begin with the Director of CUNY Citizenship Now, Professor Alan Werner.
Thank you so much, Vice Chancellor Hershenson. I want to start by thanking Chancellor Milliken for his support in our efforts, thanking Senior Vice Chancellor Hershenson for his ongoing support for Citizenship Now and the work we do, and I want to acknowledge Monique Francis, the Deputy Director of CUNY Citizenship Now, for her outstanding job in helping to organize this event. I want to start by saying that CUNY Citizenship Now is available, as always, to provide free counseling and assistance to all CUNY students. You see the email address that you see on your screen, citizenshipnowinfo@cuny.edu. If you write to us, we will provide you an appointment, help you arrange an appointment with one of our attorneys to evaluate your particular immigration situation and see if there's any benefits you might be available for that you might not be aware of. So please do contact us. Again, our service is 100% free, and we'll do the best we can to evaluate your situation. We have 6 centers located throughout New York City, and we have attorneys in 34 city council offices, so we should be able to find a site convenient for you. And one of the things we want to do at these consultations is to see whether there might be a path to a legal status that you might not be aware of. For instance, if you've been a crime victim and have been cooperating with the police authorities, you may qualify for a benefit. If you are under 21 and not currently living with your parents, you might be eligible for a benefit. And as many people know, if you marry a U.S. citizen or permanent resident, you may qualify for a benefit, and that's true even if you entered the United States unlawfully or you are here unlawfully now. Among the many questions that we've been receiving at Citizenship Now are whether or not an individual who qualifies for deferred action for childhood arrivals should be applying now. We don't recommend that people apply now if you have not already been entered into DACA status. And the reason for that is that it's unlikely your case would be adjudicated before the new president takes office on January 20th. And until we know more what his plans are, we think that you just waste your money and be providing unnecessary information to the government. If you have DACA now, should you apply for an extension? The answer that we recommend is yes. It's true that you may lose your filing fee should the program end on January 20th. On the other hand, if the program continues, you'll be able to be in the queue, be in line to get your extension. If you have any questions about this, please come to talk to us. We'll be happy to discuss that with you. Some people with deferred action for childhood arrivals, DACA, have advanced parole, and they're asking, is it safe to travel now? Our view is that it is safe to travel now, as long as you return by January, no later than January 19th. Our view is that as long as Obama is president, the DACA program remains in place. Your right to return is well established under law, and we don't see a great risk. Of course, if you have any questions about if you have a criminal, if you've committed a crime or been accused of a crime since you obtained DACA, do please visit us before you travel. Now, if you don't have advanced parole now, can you get it? Well, maybe. We think that it's possible if you apply for advanced parole by sending in your application to the National Center as is instructed on the uscis.gov website, and later have not, and prior to your trip, have not received notice that your advanced parole, which is permission to travel abroad, has been approved, we will arrange for an attorney to go with you to your to an appointment at 26 Federal Plaza, the Immigration Service headquarters in New York City, and advocate on your behalf to see if we can get your request for advanced parole expedited. But again, you're going to need to return by January 19th. Again, unless the President-elect makes an announcement that would give us the opportunity to change that point of view. And finally, some people are asking about, whether they're going to be deported and what we can do about it. Let me say this: nobody really knows, but we should all understand that the deportation process is quite complex for the alleged deportee, the person that the government is trying to deport, but it's also very complex for the government. So we will be continuing to issue at CUNY Citizenship Now advisories to let people know what opportunities are available. I should note that both the governor and the mayor of New York City and New York State have indicated that there will be resources available to defend people should they face a deportation. But for now, we're urging people to focus more, not so much on deportation, but to focus on whether you qualify for any benefit, to get good quality legal advice that we can provide at Citizenship Now. And of course, we will always be at your service, and just know that we're there for you. Thank you very much. And now I pass it on to Frederick Schaefer, our University General Counsel and Senior Vice Chancellor.
Before General Counsel and Senior Vice Chancellor Schaefer starts, I just want to remind everyone that students should be submitting their questions, which will be then responded to later on in the program.
So one of the questions that I'm sure is in the mind of a lot of people is, what are the university's legal obligations with respect to immigration enforcement? Of course, the starting principle is that the university, like other institutions, particularly public institutions, is obligated to follow the law. But the law is not a single body. There are laws that permit for immigration enforcement, but there are also laws that provide for certain rights to students and others. The most common area that people have asked me about concerns the government's access to information about our students. And there is a federal statute called the Federal Educational Rights and Privacy Act, which protects to a certain degree the confidentiality of student records. To go over that in a little bit more detail, I'm going to turn to my colleague, Associate General Counsel Dan Simonet, to review with you what is protected by this federal statute, usually referred to as FERPA, and what is not protected. Dan?
Thank you. Under FERPA, the general concept are the educational records are protected and can only be disclosed in limited circumstances. Most of those circumstances relate to a legitimate educational purpose. Some of the areas where disclosure can be had are school officials who are looking into the student's record when the student transfers from one school to the next, information related to the result of a disciplinary proceeding where for both school officials in School A and School B, but additionally where the victim or the complainant is a victim of what's called a clearly reportable act of violence or a act of sexual assault. In those limited instances, can the information be disclosed? Outside of those instances, there is an occasion where a court order is issued and the school would have to comply with it. In complying with the court order, the school would have to see if the court order says that the student is not to be informed that the information is being disclosed. If that's not included in the court order, the student is to be informed of the documentation that's being disclosed and to whom it's being disclosed. And at all points in time when the records are being disclosed, the student whose records are being disclosed is to be informed that these records are being disclosed and that and to whom they're being disclosed to. There are other limited instances where these records can be disclosed to agencies who are doing accreditation, to agencies who are doing surveys and who are trying to look at the financial aid for the student themselves. Outside of those areas, the student records are not to be disclosed, and the student has to give his or her consent and has to indicate specifically what records they wish to be disclosed and to whom.
Thank you, Dan. In sum, there's a pretty wide degree of protection. Student records, by the way, are very widely defined. So pretty much everything that this university has in the way of record about a student, whether it's maintained in one file or another, is still called a student record. And except for some general directory information like names and addresses, all of our student records are protected in the ways that Dan has just described. I would also add that in terms of law enforcement, the exception that really is most applicable would be a court order. In the 16 years that I've been general counsel of CUNY, I don't think we've received more than 1 or 2 court orders for the release of student information, and those instances were in the context of a criminal investigation, not in the context of immigration enforcement.
Thank you very much. We've now heard from the legal affairs side of the university. Let's turn to the student affairs side of the university. Kevin Tucker, the University Director of Student Affairs.
Thank you, Senior Vice Chancellor. And thank you, and again, welcome to everybody who's watching. At CUNY, we seek to support all our students who are pursuing their CUNY education, including students who are undocumented. Undocumented students contribute richly to our campus communities, teaching us all about the true meaning of diversity, persistence, resilience, and quite frankly, courage. We understand that our undocumented students face many additional challenges, and we are committed to providing resources, services, and support they need to succeed. So the first thing to remember is that your campus already has a wide range of support services and referral relationships in place. And I'm going to go over some of those today. Many of you may feel anxious or uneasy given the recent public rhetoric by some regarding immigration and other aspects of our identities. If you are having these or similar feelings, we can help you find someone to speak with. Drop into your campus counseling center. They can either help you directly or refer you to an appropriate resource. These resources are free and confidential. They're totally voluntary on your end, and there is no long-term commitment. You can stop at any time. And if you do find these resources helpful, please share with others who may find them helpful as well. New York City also runs an excellent crisis and referral services. You can call 888-NYC-WELL. Again, that's 888-NYC-WELL, or text WELL to 65173. That's text WELL to 65173, and they can help connect you to a counselor as well. If you need health information or referrals to medical care, your campus health services office is a great resource. But also, if you need urgent medical care, any New York City public hospital will provide you with treatment. Another great resource available on many of our CUNY campuses are food pantries. If you or someone you know are having difficulty accessing appropriate amounts of food and nutrition, check to see if your campus has a food pantry. If it does not, a professional at your campus health services office can refer you to one near your campus or near where you live. Additionally, the Food Bank for New York City also sponsors programs throughout the city. Check out their website to find one near you. If you are experiencing or in danger of experiencing homelessness, please see your campus division of student affairs, your counseling center, or your health services office for assistance. Online, the Coalition for the Homeless also has an excellent website where you can access some of their services. For students who find themselves with short-term financial need, most campuses offer emergency grants and loans administered by the Campus Division of Student Affairs. For information on the availability of emergency loans, please contact your campus office of the Vice President for Student Affairs. Another great resource on each of CUNY's 6 community college campuses and at John Jay is the Single Stop program. Counselors use computerized assessment and one-on-one interviews to identify eligibility for various federal, state, or local benefits, including health insurance programs, nutrition programs, legal assistance, housing assistance, subsidies for child care assistance, and others. And while these are government programs, residents of New York City and New York State are eligible for some of these regardless of their immigration status. So again, if you're a student at a CUNY Community College or at John Jay, remember to visit your Single Stop Center to find out about a wide range of support services. I also want to mention one other vital source of support, and that is your fellow CUNY students. Your fellow students are an underappreciated and powerful way to stay connected to resources and support. Many have developed their own networks and their own resources that they tend to access, and they can share that with you. Most campuses have Dreamer clubs or organizations. There's a program for CUNY Dreamers out of our central office, overseen by my colleague Rachel Stephenson, who's speaking next, as well as a CUNY Dreamer student organization that just organized a very successful student conference last Friday, and they also work with several nonprofits to assist undocumented students in achieving academic success and support services. So become involved in these organizations and programs, and you'll meet other undocumented students and allies who can help give you support and guidance. Another on-campus resource with your fellow students are our student governments. They are your elected student representatives, and of course we also have our University Student Senate, and they also advocate a lot for Dreamers and for undocumented students, as well as can help assist you to get into some support networks. So at this point, I'd like to turn it over to my colleague, Rachel Stephenson.
Thanks so much, Kevin. I think I want to reiterate something that Kevin has said, that as we're all here to talk about the importance of resources, making resources available to you, I think one of the biggest resources that is out there is community, and the community that we want to help foster among undocumented students at the university. I think now more than ever, it's important for you to realize that community is real at the City University of New York. No student dealing with stress, anxiety, fear, uncertainty needs to be alone right now. And I want to share a few details about a couple of programs that might be of service to you at this challenging time. The first that I want to talk about is the program for Dreamers at CUNY, which Kevin alluded to earlier. This is a community building and leadership development program that has been generously funded by the Pershing Square Foundation. Really, the whole point of the program is to help us build a network of undocumented students throughout CUNY and really nurture that network. One of the things that we have done very recently before the election is to convene a group of undocumented students representing 11 different colleges, and we began the conversation about what could potentially increase our students' sense of belonging at CUNY. And I think that was a really important question to be asking, especially within the context of the results of this national election. And the work that this program will do this year will engage undocumented students at CUNY to specifically answer that question. What can we do with this funding from the Pershing Square Foundation to increase your sense of belonging? So I want to encourage as many students who are interested to reach out to me to say that they want to be involved in this process, engaged in this conversation about how we can utilize this funding in a way that creates belonging, creates community, and serves the needs that you have, especially given how things have played out in terms of the presidential election. We have a plan to really formulate some very concrete ideas about things that can happen on campuses throughout the system, and we have the funds to make those things happen. So again, if you are interested in being a part of this conversation, we want to be reactive now. We want to be able to respond to the needs that are emerging for you. Please reach out to me. I'm Rachel Stephenson. That's Rachel, R-A-C-H-E-L .Stephenson, S-T-E-P-H-E-N-S-O-N @cuny.edu. My colleagues and I are more than happy to bring you into this program and really talk about how to move it forward. The second program that I wanted to mention was the Dream.US Scholarship Program. Hundreds of students at CUNY right now are recipients of this scholarship. The foundation pays for tuition, and I know that one of the major criterions for the scholarship is DACA status. So I know that a number of students with the scholarship may be wondering about what will happen if policy changes nationally take place. I want to let you know, and I think most of you have probably heard from the president of the Dream.us, that the Scholarship Foundation is committed to seeing through their commitment to you. So regardless of what happens with DACA, the scholarship will remain in place for current recipients of that scholarship. So if you have the funding now, you have been promised that funding through the end of your college experience, of course assuming that you meet all of the requirements of the scholarship program. But whatever happens policy-wise in the country will not affect the scholarship that you have at this time. I want to encourage anyone at CUNY who has friends, family members, neighbors, community members who may be eligible for this scholarship to still apply. The scholarship actually opened last week, and the foundation will be accepting applications through March of 2017. The foundation is paying attention to what's happening. Depending on how things play out with DACA, they may be shifting some of their own policies, but at this time, they have every intention to provide another 1,000 scholarships to undocumented students throughout the United States next year. So if things are in place right now, as we've heard, President Obama is still in office, DACA status is still what it is. If folks have what the scholarship says they want to see now, in order to consider applications, please have people in your network consider this as the resource it is. And the foundation has publicly stated that they are going to work with students, work with college partners, all of its stakeholders to react to anything that changes in our political landscape. If you have any questions or concerns, those of you with scholarships at this time, please do remember that you have liaisons or advisors on campus who are working with my team and also the foundation to answer your questions. So please do reach out to them. If you need a reminder about who your liaisons are, you can go to our website, which is cuny.edu/thedreamus, and you can see a list of all of the liaisons who are in place to support you. Students without the scholarship, you can check out that website too and see staff members on CUNY campuses who are engaged in this work around supporting undocumented students, and I'm sure that if you have immediate questions, they will be happy to answer those questions or at least help you to find answers to those questions. So we do have people actively engaged in this work, and you can check out that website to get their names and contact information. I just want to say it's been a privilege to be a part of this conversation this morning, and I hope that we're able to talk in a meaningful way about how community and your peers can help to alleviate some of the concerns you might have now.
Thank you very much, Rachel, and I do want to remind everyone who is tuned in to this Facebook Live session again that we welcome your questions. So take the time to forward those questions directly to us. In addition, as the Chancellor indicated in his communication, there will be a frequently asked question and answer posting that will follow this session and will be updated as we need. You've been hearing from our legal side of the university, our Office of Legal Affairs, from CUNY Citizenship Now, which has an incredible record of service over 20 years, and from our student affairs operations and student service operations that very much represents the kind of resources that are available at this university, and a very, very strong pitch that you not only take advantage of on-campus counseling services, but also learn more about the connection between the university and the larger community and the agencies that are available external to the university. You've heard that in our presentations as well. I would like to now call upon Andres Lemons, who is the directing attorney for Citizenship Now, which is located in his particular case at CUNY in the Heights in Manhattan, and he will bring all of this information to a very visible reminder that there are student situations involved here that the university cares deeply about in the context of immigration advice for undocumented students, including those with DACA. Andre?
Yes, thank you very much. Yeah, I'd like to talk to you about the advantages of having DACA and traveling on advanced parole. This short a time we have, but it's still a possibility for some students, and or some people maybe have already traveled on advanced parole and want to know what the benefits are. And the main one is that it's a kind of opens the doors to the future to get a green card. You know, for example, let's say, you know, someone with DACA, they entered the country when they were young, and maybe they entered without inspection or without being paroled or admitted, in which case it's much more difficult to apply for a green card, adjusting their status. So when they travel on advanced parole, that's the great thing about it. They have a lawful entry, considered paroled. So because of that, if they have a way to get their green card, whether it be through family or something else, it's a lot easier to get the green card. And like I said, there's not too much time left, but in some cases it still is an option. So I encourage anyone to speak to someone at one of our sites to figure out what their options are.
Thank you very much, Andre. We are, of course, ready with questions that have come from you, and let's start with the first one.
I'm currently undocumented and was not eligible for DACA. What options do I have now?
Well, each case is different, so the option that you have is to see one of our attorneys and go through your entire legal history and see what opportunities might be available for you. For some people, there may not be anything that can be done, and there may not be a path to legal status, but for others there may be. As I mentioned earlier, for instance, if a person was a crime victim and they're cooperating with police authorities, they may qualify for a benefit. But the only way to really know for sure is to sit down with somebody. And at the very least, if you do so, you will know that you have gotten the best quality legal advice possible. One thing we're very concerned about in this period is that people, our students and others, will go to see individuals who will just tell them anything to get their money. And I can assure you that the quality of legal advice that you receive at CUNY Citizenship Now will be as good, and in most cases better, that you will receive outside of the university. So send us an email and we'll hook you up with an appointment.
Alan, how does a student get access to Citizenship Now? Where are the offices generally located? In addition to sending an email, and perhaps we ought to give the email address in a few moments, how does a student get in touch?
Well, at our website, cuny.edu/citizenshipnow, we have a list of all of our centers and all 34 city council offices. So you can make a phone call to those offices. We are prioritizing services to CUNY students. The email address that you mentioned is citizenship is on. It should be on the screen in front of you. It's citizenshipnowinfo@cuny.edu, and if you write to us, we'll make an appointment for you.
And if a student has a family member, a relative, who needs some advice, is that permissible?
It is. Our services are open to the public. They're free services for all New Yorkers, and it's if you or your family members or your neighbors or friends need our assistance, we're here for you.
Next question.
My family and I are Muslims with asylum. I'm a student at LaGuardia. I heard Muslim registry would apply to me. Will this affect my asylum?
If you have asylum, you're protected, of course, provided that there was nothing in your claim that was inappropriate or a misstatement. But if you have asylum, you should be protected. Not only that, after you've been in asylum status for 1 year, you can apply for permanent residence simply because you had asylum. And in fact, when you get permanent residence, it'll be backdated at least 1 year. As for the registry, I think it's going to be very difficult for some kind of Muslim registry. After all, determining who's a Muslim and who's not is going to be difficult for the government. In the past, the only kinds of registries that have been implemented in recent years, in the last 20 or 30 years, have been those based on nationality, not based on religion. So for now, I think you're safe. The most important advice I would give is that as soon as you have been in asylee status for 1 year, you should, well, actually, before the end of your first year, you should come to one of our centers. We will prepare your application, and then once you have the 1 year in asylee status, you'll be able to make that application and be quickly on your way to permanent residence.
This question is for Rachel. If Trump ends DACA, will the Dream.us scholarship also end?
No, I mean, I was just at a board meeting last week with the Dream.us and their, stakeholders, advisors, college partners, funders. They don't want the scholarship to end. They're just going to figure out how to change the requirements of the scholarship based on what policy in the country looks like. And in fact, it may even be an opportunity for them to broaden the reach of the scholarship. So the scholarship fund will not go away.
A question regarding releasing information. Will CUNY guarantee student privacy by refusing to release information regarding immigration status of our students, staff, and faculty?
We will comply with the law as we must, but we will certainly enforce the aspect of the law that we previously spoke about, which was FERPA, and FERPA protects all information relating to student records, except really the only exception applicable to this question is court order. So we will not release information that we are prohibited from releasing unless there's a valid court order.
Alrighty. I'm an F1 student. Do I need to worry about the new president taking away my status?
I don't think so. The F1 program is in the statute of the it's a statute in the United States. It's a law of the country. There may be some amendments to the regulations that could affect employment authorization or other aspects of F1 student status, but that's quite a ways down the road. I would say it's unlikely to see any change for at least a year. I can't promise that, but I think it's unlikely if there's any change at all. And we really don't know whether the changes will be for the benefit of the international students or be restrictive to the international students. But there have been, so far, in the readings that I have done, there's been no talk about changing the rules regarding international student status.
Should green card holders apply for citizenship before January 20th?
I think green card holders should apply for citizenship as soon as possible, but separate apart from the fact that we have a new president coming to office. And at CUNY citizenship now, about 60% of the cases we handle are cases of people applying for citizenship. One thing is that the fees are going to go up on December 23rd, so if you can file before then, that would certainly be beneficial. Also, I'd remind our students that if you are of low income or receive some form of public benefit, you can qualify to file your application without paying a fee. I do not anticipate major changes quickly in the rules regarding naturalization. Most of the changes require a change of federal statute. That is possible. In fact, I would say it's likely to happen, but it will not happen between now and January 20th or even shortly thereafter. Again, it is likely to be something that will take several months, but certainly the sooner you become a citizen, the better. One thing to note about becoming a U.S. citizen, it is the best protection for you going forward. It's very clear by U.S. Supreme Court interpretation of our Constitution and federal statute that once you become a U.S. citizen, the only way you're going to lose your citizenship is if you give it up voluntarily. So any act that you engage in, no matter how serious a violation of the law, after becoming a U.S. citizen will not affect your right to remain in the United States. So again, the best protection against any changes in the law is to become a citizen as soon as possible.
What happens to students whose DACA status have expired but have not sent in the renewal paperwork?
Well, if your DACA status expired, you're no longer in DACA status. You can't travel with advanced parole. You can't work lawfully. If you file your application for renewal now, renewing of your registry with DACA, and the DACA program is ended on January 20th, you'll certainly use your money, but there won't be any further harm. So it's something that each individual person needs to decide on their own. Some students have decided that they want to wait until, let's say, February to see if there's any changes in the DACA program. Some students who can afford to make the application now are doing so in hopes that the program will be extended.
Will CUNY maintain in-state tuition for DACA students after January 20th?
Yes.
I'm undocumented. My mom told me not to apply for DACA because she was scared that the government would get our information. I'm eligible. Should I apply now to protect myself from being deported?
We're recommending that people not apply now simply because we're concerned that they're going to lose their application fee, not so much that we're concerned that they're going to be deported as a result of filing. However, nobody can know for sure what this president will do and what the Department of Justice will do going forward. But if you have a question about whether or not you should apply, maybe it's best that you sit and talk to one of our attorneys and we'll give you individual advice.
Alrighty. My work permit expires in March 1st. Should I apply now before Trump goes in?
It's the same. It's really the same. It's really the same question. Pardon me. It's really the same question as the prior one. If your work permit is based on DACA, I'm assuming that's the basis of the question. You should sit and talk to us before you apply. Again, my main concern is not so much that you're going to be deported, but it's an expensive application, and I hate to see you lose your money.
Where can I find out more about scholarship information for students?
Well, I mean, I can tell you that at this point we have information about the Dream.us scholarship at cuny.edu/thedreamus. In terms of outside scholarships, I mean, that's something we could potentially put together and try to link to that page.
Additionally, there's also some information about scholarships on the CUNY. If you follow the CUNY Student Affairs page to our CUNY Dreamers Hub, there is some information about scholarships for Dreamers there as well.
I currently have DACA and would like to study abroad. Can I still apply? The program ends on January 27th.
You should come back by January. You should plan to come back by January 19th. We don't, unless President-elect Trump makes an announcement before January 20th, we cannot assure you that you'll be readmitted into the United States. Because the Obama DACA program is something that was created by his executive order, it's something that can be ended by the executive order of the new president. And to err on the side of caution, we highly recommend that people not plan on traveling if the return is after January 19th.
If I might just jump in there for a minute, because I've been thinking about the question concerning in-state tuition. If you are a DACA student and you are paying the lower rate of tuition under the statute because you graduated from a U.S. high school and are living in New York City, that your eligibility for the lower rate of tuition for that reason doesn't change. If you are a DACA student paying the lower rate of tuition solely because you're a DACA student, that is to say you graduated from high school somewhere else, then that poses a somewhat different issue, and my legal staff is analyzing that now, and we'll have an answer in the near future, but I can't answer that question right now.
Alrighty. What help is there for students at risk of losing their status?
Again, I would say each case is different. What you need to do is sit down with one of our attorneys and we will evaluate whether there's anything that can be done to assist you.
And just to pitch the opportunity to come together with other students who may be dealing with some of the same questions and concerns as you are, we do have programs that do the community building that I think would help to deal with some of the social and emotional issues that are coming up for you now.
We should also indicate very clearly that every campus has a student affairs office, an office of the dean of students, or an office of vice president of student affairs, where there are counselors available. who have on-campus information that's available to you. You've heard that at many of our colleges, particularly the community colleges, there is the single-stop program. So first and foremost, if you are a student on your campus, make your inquiry to your Student Services, Student Affairs office. Then in addition to that, on a university level, you've heard about the U.S. Dream Foundation program, and of course you've heard about CUNY Citizenship Now, which is the largest citizenship, naturalization, and immigration assistance program at any university anywhere in the United States that offers free counseling and much assistance to immigrant students, and historically has done so all over the city, as well as in many, many other regions. So you have available to you these resources in a system that very much is interested in your education, in your status, and in doing whatever we can to assist you.
If DACA is terminated, can a college student somehow extend deportation deferral until their college degree is completed?
Well, right now it is taking 2 years just to get a hearing before an immigration judge in deportation proceedings. We don't know how long that's going to how long that's going to last or what will happen in the future. Just being in college is not in and of itself a basis for being able to stay in the United States. But as I said earlier, the deportation process is really quite complicated, and there are going to be many defenses that are going to be raised by individuals, some new and creative defenses in terms of trying to forestall deportation. You know, if there, depending how many millions of people there really are in the United States who are undocumented, one estimate is that it takes $10,000 just to deport somebody. So I would just say that while we don't know the future, we can say it's going to be very difficult for any administration to increase the number of people who are deported every year over the number that are being deported now, which is about 400,000 a year.
For F1 students on OPT, will this be terminated under President Trump?
There's been no indication from the incoming administration that the OTP program will be terminated. OTP is optional practical training. It is for people who graduate from a college. You're allowed up to 1 year for each graduation. Community college, 4-year, master's, postgraduate, each of those come with at least 1 year with additional months available for those who are in the STEM fields. And I do not anticipate lessening of that, but again, we won't know until the new administration takes office.
What are my risks if I can't apply for advanced parole because of medical conditions and I have DACA? What should I do?
If you, could you repeat the question?
What are my risks if I can't apply for advanced parole because of medical conditions and I have DACA? What should I do?
The risk if a person travels without getting advanced parole for whatever reason, there's a good chance they will not be allowed back into the United States.
What is the path for citizenship for F1 students?
Right now, if you're an F1 student, your best chance to path to citizenship, unless you have a relative who can petition for you or you are about to marry a U.S. citizen, is to, upon graduation, try to get an employer who will employ you while in optional practical training upon graduation, while in optional practical training. Try to get the employer to sponsor you for H-1 professional temporary work status. That status is available to anyone with a bachelor's degree or higher or the equivalent, and where that degree is needed in the field of work in which you'll be engaged. It's available for up to 6 years in 3-year increments, and sometimes can be extended beyond 6 years. While in H-1B status, you should talk to your employer about possibly sponsoring you for permanent residence based on a shortage of qualified labor in your field.
What will happen to DACA students who are employees of CUNY if the program ends?
I can answer that, but
You start.
well, any employer who complies with the law is going to have to terminate an individual when DACA, if their DACA status is eliminated. One possibility, again, we don't know, but one possibility is that the president will end DACA for new applicants, but allow those who have employment authorization already under DACA to continue.
Will CUNY stand up against the White House administration if they begin gathering immigrants for deportation, like most NYC schools saying they are willing to do?
As I said at the outset, CUNY is obligated to comply with the law, but the enforcement powers of the federal government in the immigration area are not unlimited. Most of the time when immigration authorities seek to detain somebody, it's pursuant to an administrative warrant. Well, let me back up for a second. Under the current policy of Immigration and Customs Enforcement, special authorization is needed to come into certain what are called sensitive locations in order to enforce the immigration laws. And in fact, over the last 16 years, I'm not aware of any instance at CUNY where immigration authorities have come onto our campuses. They can, of course, get orders that permit them to detain people, and depending upon what kind of order it is, CUNY may be required to comply. But many of the instances where they try to enforce the immigration laws, it's pursuant to an administrative warrant, and an administrative warrant is not like a search warrant. It permits enforcement agents to be in public areas, but not in non-public areas.
And how likely is it that there will be court orders that force CUNY to release student information?
As I said, in the past, we've only had it in a handful of instances, and it has been only in connection with criminal investigations. My crystal ball is not clear enough to tell me what's going to happen in the future.
How long does it take for a person to apply for advanced parole and have it approved?
Well, typically advanced parole is taking several months, and there's not enough time if you apply now to go through the normal procedure. But here's what we're recommending. If you apply for advanced parole through the normal procedure, which is that you send your application into the National USCIS Center, the address on the website, and of course we will help you with your application if you come to one of our centers or one of our city council offices. We will assist you with that application. It will not be adjudicated in time for you to travel, I can assure you, based on delays that exist now with the Immigration Service. However, there is a procedure where you can refile your application, pay a new fee, if you have filed previously at the National Center at 26 Federal Plaza, which is the district office of the Immigration Service here. We cannot guarantee that your application will be adjudicated or approved, but we're optimistic that it will. CUNY Citizenship Now has organized a project just for individuals such as yourself. We have 3 attorneys who've been assigned to assist people with the advanced parole application, in addition to others who can assist you, but we have 3 attorneys that will be available to go to 26 Federal Plaza with the students to advocate on their behalf. That's the most we can do. We cannot promise, but we're all in trying to help people get advanced parole, but again, they have to return by January 19th.
Will DACA students go back to being undocumented after January 20th?
Only if the
or
president...
some other status?
So under the DACA is in place until it's not in place. So President Trump would need to reverse the executive order of President Obama. If that were to take place, the person would either become undocumented or, in some cases, if before DACA they were in another status, in some limited cases they would return to that. But in most cases, they would, if you were undocumented, you will become undocumented again.
What will CUNY do to protect minority students from discrimination policies that are put forth by the new White House administration?
If I could answer that, This past Sunday, Governor Cuomo sent a message to all CUNY students, all SUNY students, and to students at private colleges and universities. And let me take a moment to read his message. Dear students, after the harsh and ugly rhetoric of the campaign, many of you are concerned about what might happen next. Let me be clear. This is the state of New York, not a state of fear. We will not tolerate hate or racism. We have been and always will be a place where people of many backgrounds have come to seek freedom and opportunity. Almost all who live here can trace their roots to someplace else. We cherish our diversity. We find strength in our differences, whether you are gay or straight, Muslim or Christian, Jewish or Buddhist, rich or poor, black or white or Latino or Asian, man or woman, cisgender or transgender. We respect all people in the state of New York. The Statue of Liberty is a proud symbol of American values, and she stands in our harbor. We feel a special responsibility to make her offer of refuge and hope a reality every day. As long as you are here, you are New Yorkers. You are members of our community, and we will stand up to you. The state of New York has strict laws against hate crimes and discrimination, and we fully and firmly enforce them. It is illegal in this state to target, harass, or discriminate against a person because of his or her race, color, national origin, ancestry, gender, religion, religious practice, age, disability, or sexual orientation. We are a tolerant people and cannot and will not let our freedoms be undermined. New York State has a toll-free hotline where people can report incidents of bias and discrimination. Our responsibility is to protect all who are here, whether native-born or immigrant, whether documented or not. The hotline strengthens our efforts. Contacting us will not affect your immigration status. New Yorkers who have experienced bias or discrimination should call the toll-free hotline at 888-392-3644 from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. If you want to report a crime or fear for your safety, call 911 immediately. And finally, the governor indicated New Yorkers feel a particular affection for young immigrants. For centuries, our state has thrived on the energy and ambition of the young people seeking to build their lives here. Your intelligence, your creativity, your idealism enriches us all. You are welcome here. Sincerely, Governor Cuomo. That message is available on the CUNY website and is a message to students at CUNY, SUNY, and students in the private college sector.
Can the panelists repeat the websites that they mentioned at the start for services available to students?
Sure, I'll start with thedream.us. So that's cuny.edu/thedreamus, THEDREAMUS.
And of course, you can start by going to cuny.edu and surfing the website, looking for Citizenship Now, which is of course available through the CUNY website as well, and the Office of Student Affairs, which is available as well through cuny.edu.
To get our website, CUNY Citizenship Now, there's a lot of valuable information, but also, as I noted, the list of our centers and our places where we can provide services. It's cuny.edu/citizenshipnow, one word. Thank you.
And if they have any questions about some of the outside agencies I mentioned earlier, people can feel free to email me at kevin.tucker@cuny.edu.
Can employers sponsor a DACA recipient?
An employer can sponsor a DACA recipient. The problem is that there may be some difficulties going forward depending on whether the individual is unlawfully in the United States, for how long. If it was more than 180 days, it may be fruitless in the end. But again, this is something that you would need to speak to an attorney about, and we're pretty happy to provide that advice at no charge.
Those are all the questions.
If I might just amend one prior answer concerning access to student records, the federal law does not require a subpoena with respect to student records for people who have an F, M, or J visa. With respect to those people, a court order is not necessary, and the immigration enforcement authorities can request student records by a simple written request.
Thank you. I'm going to make a closing statement at this point. I want to thank all of the experts who are seated here at the Robert J. Kibbe Boardroom at the headquarters of the university's central office. Alan Wernick, the director of CUNY Citizenship Now, Andre Lemons, the directing attorney of Citizenship Now, CUNY in the Heights, Frederick Schaefer, the general counsel and senior vice chancellor for legal affairs, Kevin Tucker, the university director of student affairs, Rachel Stevenson, the university director of Dream US and Program for Dreamers at CUNY and the CUNY Service Corps, and Daniel Simonet, associate general counsel for the Office of Legal Affairs. And I want to again make sure that everyone knows that the posting of the chancellor's statement to the university community is available at cuny.edu, as well as the governor's statement over the weekend, and you can get access to many of the services and programs that we've talked about in today's session. I've just been informed by Professor Wernick that the video of today's live Facebook session will stay in the Facebook page of both CUNY and Citizenship Now. So if you have friends or relatives or other members of the community, let them know that the video of today's panel will again be in the Facebook page of both CUNY and Citizenship Now. Let me close by just reading the last line of the Chancellor's statement to members of the CUNY community. We hope that all students will take advantage of CUNY and college resources and appreciate the great importance we place on providing you with the support and services that will help you build your futures and strengthen your university, your city, and your state. Thank you very much.